So I found that many people have a similar way of reacting to life. So let's say if you have a habit of reacting to sort of deadline or reacting to traffic or reacting to sort of rude people or disrespected attitude or conversation, you might have been experiencing that as long as you remember, right? So there is an outside incident and you start reacting from inside out where your emotion arises, and the next moment when you realize you're thinking some sort of quote unquote negative, disempowering, contracted thoughts. So the term positive thoughts and negative thoughts are very well known and people are using that. I like to use more empowering, disempowering, because whenever we think negative thoughts, we are giving power away from us. So it's disempowering. And whenever we think positive thoughts, we are owning that power inside. So I also use the term expansive or contracted, right? When you think negative thoughts, you feel limited, you feel not feeling expansive. But when you are engaging and entertaining a positive thought, you feel free, expansive, and you want to be in that energy forever. So in this video, I want to share with you what I call the anatomy of reactivity, anatomy of reaction. So there are two places that people react. One is the outside in. So there's an outside event that happens, and then we react towards that by getting triggered. That's one place. Now, the second place is there is this what people call sort of like the past memory, right? Some people use the term trauma, some people use the term some sort of past experience, like childhood experience. In the past present self, the memory self that is living in our, let's say, store cell memory in the cell, which we get triggered by having that some sort of feeling arising from the inside and then being expressed. Yeah. So there are only these two places that people produce negative thoughts. Although these two things are interconnected. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit. And not many people know the third place that we can initiate thoughts from. So I'm gonna get into this sort of, the anatomy of reactivity. I call, also the anatomy of the thoughts, how people generate thoughts. But before I go there, let me talk a little bit about meditation, because many people are more and more engaging in meditation. I'm gonna talk about what meditation is and how it works and why it's not enough. Yeah, you might be surprised when I say everybody, we're encouraged to meditate. I feel like meditation does only 50% of the work, depending on the objective, right? So meditation is about, you can close your eyes, sitting, lying down. A lot of people, when they try to sit and meditate, it becomes sort of like a punishment or torturing, because many people have sort of like limited mobility in the body and people start experiencing discomfort and pain, right? So when I facilitate meditation, I do like people to sort of lie down so there's minimum distraction. Although the upright spine is essential in finding connection, but I feel like the distraction that arises out of the limitation in the body is louder than the benefit of the upright spine. So I lead people lying down so they can fully focus, right? It's important to stay focused in order to get outside of the mind. So meditation is about observing your inner world. There are different ways to explain, there are different perspectives of meditation, but the benefit and what I see, how meditation works for myself and for people that I guide with, meditation is about stepping back outside of your mechanical mind, because the mind does the thinking without us trying to initiate or without us intending to initiate. It just does it, right? Dum, dum, dum. In the next moment, You're not trying to think, but you are inside of the thought bubble. And you don't really know how you initiated your thoughts, even though it's your thought, but it just does that in a mechanical way. That's the nature of the mind. One of the meditation teachers that I study with a little bit often said that the mind wants to think just like the lungs wants to breathe. You are not intending to breathe, but the lung just does that in a mechanical way. So the mind does the same thing for the thinking. Now, meditation is to begin observing the mind. Begin observing the mind. And then we feel free because we're not caught in these sort of negative thoughts or disempowering thoughts, right? But I think the challenge is that we can never live our 3D physical life without thought, right? So I found that when people meditate, that's good. You feel that relief, you feel that expansiveness, and you feel you train your mind to create space a little bit between your thoughts and the observer. So it's very useful. But I think at the same time, I observe many people going back to the negative thoughts when they start using the thoughts. So I think the second layer, I said 50% it's good meditation, but the second 50% is we must begin training our thought to deliberately think positive, empowering, and expansive thoughts. Because if you're not deliberately and consciously forming the habit of thinking expansive thoughts, you're unconsciously doing the opposite because the mind works in a mechanical way. Let me say that again. If you're not consciously and deliberately forming a habit / lifestyle or producing an expansive, empowering thought, which is different from meditating, because meditation is about observing, not really being the initiator, proactive initiator of a thought. But the second layer is that we must practice proactively initiating, empowering, expansive thoughts to be able to fill our mind and the body with expansive energy. Many people love vacation, right? And many people love vacation because they can shift the rhythm in their life to do something that is fun and expansive, right? And many people tell me that this is something that I used to say often, that I want to start saying that again, that people use the term unplugging, right? Unplugging from people even use the term reality, right? And then unplugging from a reality, when people use the term unplugging from reality, it's rather a little unfortunate because whenever you said that, oh, I am able to unplug from my day-to-day reality and go to vacation, it feels like the day-to-day reality that you are engaging has some sort of toxicity and you need to kind of decompress and unplug from it. But the truth is that if you are, let's say, the outside event, right? You have your outside event, and I'm gonna create a different video around stress because this is gonna be a little bit different topic. But the outside, let's say the outside event is chaotic, but the outside event and the inside experience are two different things. So when you start mechanically reacting to the outside event inside, people start thinking that, okay, the outside event is a little chaotic. I wanna unplug from my reality to breathe, to have a vacation. But what they're really saying and might not be aware of is that it's actually their own thinking that they want to unplug from. And guess what? People are gonna want to unplug from their own thinking only when it's negative. Well, only when it's disempowering, only when it's contracted. Because let's just take a moment to think thoughts that gives you an expansiveness. Take a moment to imagine a place that fills you an energy, joy. You're with people who you love hanging out with. Maybe you're in a restaurant that you love that food. Maybe you're doing the workout or yoga or whatever that is that gives you an energy And you're in that energy in your body because you're thinking thoughts and imagery in your mind that gives you an energetic state. Who would want to unplug from that reality? Yeah. So whenever people say I want to unplug from, my recommendation is that people begin thinking those thoughts in a reactive manner because they're actually not plugged in to the what I call the divine source. The essence of who we are is happiness. The essence of who we are is love. The essence of who we are is peace and ease. The essence of who we spiritually essentially are, it has only expansive quality. All the fear-based negative emotions, disempowering thoughts, those are a constructed programming that we have received that has habituated in our cells, cells, yeah. And then we started to react to the outside world because we are not discerning the difference between the outside event and the inside experience. The outside event, just from a spiritual standpoint, no matter how negative, chaotic, or confusing the outside, overwhelming the outside event might appear to be, every single situation in the outside event just is, until we use our thinking and perception to attach a meaning to that event. So the first step to begin plugging back into what I call the 5D. 5D is your divine source. 5D is your spiritual place, right? Because that dimension doesn't have any chaotic vibration, doesn't have any fear-based energy. Is to begin understanding that we are able to change our perception, how we see the outside world. Now, that's one layer, right? So we're talking about the anatomy of thoughts and how we are ending up, most people are ending up reacting to the outside because there's no awareness, too much awareness of the distinction, discernment between the outside event that is just is, and we tend to point the finger outside saying, this is making me stress. Nothing can make you stress but only your perception of it. So when we start becoming aware of the lens that we are seeing through that creates our experience, we can change it, right? Now, why do we have that perception lens that we are seeing through? Because we are wearing a lens based on our past, present experience. So you might have had, let's say you had some sort of incidents or relationship with friends or parents or school that gave you a certain sense of unworthiness, which exists in almost every single person, right? Because many people have been raised or has an experience of being told no by the surrounding, right? So no is a rejection word, right? And when you have, let's say if you have been told no so many times, or you had an experience that felt less than the outside, you start creating that the sense of worthiness or not good enoughness, right? The sense of not good enoughness is sort of like a global epidemic. So then you start wearing that lens because you believe that that is who you are. But the truth is that the belief that you have about you is just another story that you have cultivated in this life on earth, and you can change it. But what we must realize is that held feeling, there are a lot of people who talk about suppressed feeling, but I kind of like to use the term held feeling better, only because before the 6 and 7, the age of 6 and 7, our subconscious mind is fully open. So all the negativity, emotions, anxiety, worries, or tendency that you were surrounded by, your parents or schools, teachers, community, relatives, whatever, you have absorbed it, right? But it's not like you suppressed it. your conscious mind was formed later. So it's being held in your subconscious mind. And then that shows up as your perception, the sense of worthiness, the experience that you had before you formed your conscious mind at the age of 6 and 7 is shaping your perception of how you see the world. So if you don't feel confident in a certain area and you see something in the outside, you choose that perception to see that event outside from a not confident place, right? And then the result of that is that you start thinking disempowering, negative, contracted thoughts. So the two places that people creates reaction to life is one is that people are conditioned to react to the outside due to the lack of awareness of the discernment between the outside event and the inside experience. And number two is people are unaware how the held feeling from the past is producing the perception that is leading them to produce the thoughts that they don't want. So how do we change that? By understanding the anatomy and mechanism of reactivity and thought, right? Held emotion, held feeling is producing the thought. Then, if you don't like the thought, we must change that held feeling. It's interesting. Held feeling is just an information, it's not you. Because the essence of who you are is none of those stories. But that belief or the feeling that might be in your subconscious mind is just an information that you ended up believing to be yourself. But you can change it. You can change by recognizing that mechanism, recognizing what exactly you're believing, and then identifying what you want to replace with. Identity is interesting. Identity wants to hold on to. So if you don't like that held feeling, belief that you are holding on to in the subconscious mind, if you just try to eliminate that, it will take much longer until you know what belief and new feeling you wanna be holding on to. Because identity is about staying connected with a certain feeling. And then when you try to remove that feeling, it's sort of like a death of ego. And it's difficult for the ego and the identity to be nobody. So in order to feel like you are somebody, you must replace with the new feeling, new held belief, in order to replace and let go of the old. And then when you begin replacing with the new held belief and feeling, you start forming a different perception to see through the outside event. And when you practice yourself enough that the outside event and the inside experience are two distinct things, and it's all up to your lens and the perception that you're wearing, you start producing a thought that is uplifting, empowering, positive, and expansive, and you feel like you're plugged into the happiness of who you are all the time, and you will never feel like you wanna unplug from the 3D reality, because now you're plugged in fully into a moment-to-moment vacation. So I hope that's helpful, and I will see you in the next video.